Hello and good evening, it's the Clay Golem here. We're back with building Phandelver and below. Igla, keen as always. Nice to see you, buddy. Alright, where the hell were we? I know where we were. We were doing Craigmore Castle. Let's go back into, not Phandalin, Spider's Web. There we go. Alright, so what we're doing. We were doing walls and stuff. Now I did go a bit ahead. And just finished off some of the walls and worked around. Now, there are a couple of bits to talk about with this. I've not completely finished them, but there's a couple of bits to talk about. If you look closely on this section of the map, let's just move that out of the way for a second. This tower, it's got shutters on the window. They've been barricaded up. Not there. Stop it. And including on this one as well. Yeah, so you can see that there's like the wooden shutters and stuff. So what's the best way to deal with that? I mean, there's several different ways you can do it. You can just put that wall across and job done, right? But what happens if your players decide to do something like, oh, we're going to rip those off, we're going to smash those off? So what I've done in this instance is I've made it a normal arrow slit window. And then I've put that wall across. So if they do decide to tear that down, all I need to do is delete that wall. And then it acts just like the arrow slits, like any of the others. There's lots of different ways you could do that. It's unfortunate that we don't really have open and closable windows, because that would be kind of ideal for stuff like this. It's doors only. Right, what else did I do? I was playing with a different way of doing these walls. Igla, I think it was you who suggested last time and said, oh, you use terrain walls for it. Was that you? Can't remember. You'll let me know, I'm sure. Using terrain walls to do this, because what I was saying is when you look at a piece of wall like this, for example, it was you, Igla. Yeah, genius idea. And again, it's just horses for courses, whatever works for you, whichever way you want to do it. But what I was saying is basically, you know, if you end up with your, let's get a character out. Who will we using now? Dwarf Barbarian. If you have your walls in the middle, they can see too much. But if you follow the interior wall too closely, they can't see any of the graphics and things like that, which is a little bit of a problem. So you kind of want to be able to see some of it so that you can see both sides of the wall, but not the whole lot. Now, what Igla suggested was using terrain walls. Oh, look, I've already got one over here. So what terrain walls do, the way they work, is when you've got two terrain walls, you can always see through the first one, but not the second one. Okay, so in this instance, we would be able to see all of this interior stuff here, but not beyond it from this character, from where they are. Okay, because we can see through this first one, we can't see through that one. So if I select this individual, see what I mean? So actually, we've got that graphic, so we can see the outside of that tower, but we can't see what's actually outside of the tower. Now if I move him, thank you, if I move him outside, I'm going to need to reset that fog of war just to make this a bit more obvious. From the outside we can see past the first wall but not into the room. So again, when we're doing exploration and stuff, it's actually a really neat way of doing it. I'll walk past the window, which is why I can see it. It just a different way of doing it. So horses, courses, whatever you feel like, whichever one works for you. I quite like that when these walls are particularly thick like that. I'm not going to go back and change all of this one. It doesn't really matter. I really ought to pick one method or the other, but I'm not going to waste time on this doing stuff. Right, most of the walls are done. Now, places like this front entrance, these doors are smashed down. So we could put a door here, but they're already on the floor, smashed. So I'm not going to bother. I've accidentally got a gap in my walls here. Let's draw that in. There we go. Let's redraw that in. But there's a few places, and we just need to go through and just check it all. And a really good idea is to wander around with a token that has vision on, just to check everything. And we've got a couple of areas like this where we've got a curtain across here. So how do we deal with a curtain? Well, you can effectively use a door for it and just say, well, it's basically a door, isn't it? but it's not really a door. So let's open that up. Does it restrict movement? Well, it's a curtain. You can walk through it. So no, it doesn't. Does it restrict light? Yes, it does. That's its purpose. Does it restrict sight? Yes, it does. Does it restrict sound? Probably not. You might want to go with limited or proximity. I'm just going to go none. That's fine. And we're going to have it like that. So they can walk through it. So your tokens can walk through it at any time they want to, but they can't see past it. Now, again, they might rip the curtain down. That's fine. Just delete the wall. Job done. Really easy. There's another curtain in here somewhere. There it is. So what we can do, of course, is we can do a Control C and we can do a Control V and just paste that in and then put it where we want. And it's already got those settings on it. Doesn't really matter. But there we go. Another curtain there. And there's a couple more curtains up here. And here we go. I missed some walls here for this bit. Let's use Igla's little way of doing walls here. So terrain walls. And we can just draw these in. Because it's terrain walls, we can actually be quite rough with it, to be honest. Just want to get it. Of course I missed. Let's slap that in there. Yeah, so we're going to be able to see the central pillar, but not beyond it. And from the north, we're going to be able to see the central pillar, but not beyond it. And from the left and the right as well. Okay, cool. Because it's easier, I'm going to select that. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste 2 of these. And we're going to slap one of those curtains over here. And one of those curtains over here. So again, walk through them, no problem whatsoever. But you can't see past them, or you can't hear. Sorry, you can't. The light doesn't shine through them either. All right. Any other places that I missed? Because I always miss something, and then, or I always miss a couple of things. There we go. There's another curtain actually. We'll slap this out. There we go. Happy with all of that's being done, and we've got this bit to do. So we know we've got some tiles. Did I even bring up the correct tiles thing? No, I didn't. Let's find it. Where are we? Craigmore Castle. Sorry, I know these are a bit small. Let's make those icons a bit bigger. We got a whole bunch of these canvases, these extra tiles that we can put onto this to just add that little bit of extra stuff. Remember we did that in the other scene, didn't we? We just had it so you can hide and show them. So we've got things like the wrecked bed and stuff like that. So let's see if we can play the game of putting those bits out. I'm going to come back to this with regard to the walls, this bit up here, because that tile is going to affect one of them. So let's go to our tile controls. We're going to go to browse. And I want them in here, so I'm going to load. I'm going to go to Craigmore Castle, and I'm just going to. Are some of these the same? Banquet table destroyed, toppled. So I need to bring these in each individually. So let's just do that, and that way they're all in my tile thingy, ready to go. Thingy. Library, that's the word. Tile library. Okay, and then we don't want to bring in the map again, of course. And we might not use all of these. I'm just bringing in all the ones we've got. Some of them are literally just for treasure bits, you know, kind of which one do you want for which place. All right. So we've got all of those in there now. And now it's just a case of drag and drop wherever they're supposed to go. So we've got 2 tables down here. We can drag one of those out there and the other one there. We'll come back to the other ones in a minute. So this tile, thankfully they're nicely sized correctly. That looks like that goes pretty much about there. So if there's a fight in here, that's what we're going to do. Now, remember, we're going to lock it so I can't accidentally drag it around, and then I'm going to hide it. So it's going to be set up. I'll just move that one out of the way. It's going to be set up a bit like this one. And if there's a fight, you know, and things get smashed, we can just change that image. That's quite nice. And for this one, again, this one's going to get toppled over instead. So again, lock it and hide it. So we can see the 2 images over the top of each other. The players can't. The players can only see, of course, the original image unless we show the new image which replaces it. All right, what else did we have in that little library? This smashed table and stuff. Now, where exactly does this go? This is for this room up here. So again, let's zoom in over this side. Now you can see we've got walls on here, so we do need to make sure that lines up. That's nice and easy. So again, we've got a table here. Maybe it gets smashed in the fight. Again, you don't need to do this. You know, not just Dungeons and Dragons, but role-playing games, they are theatre of the mind. That's always what they originally were. You can say that the table gets smashed to pieces. You don't need to graphically represent it. And I certainly don't bother with doing stuff like that very much. I might have lightning effects and things like that to create atmosphere, but I don't bother with changing furniture. I'm doing it here, so one, you know that you can do it, and you know really easily and how to do it, and these Forgotten Adventure maps come with it. So why not? It's kind of that simple. They've done the hard work. Let's show it off. Okay, what else have we got in here? We need to be careful that we're not accidentally picking from the wrong area. Yes, this one and this one. I want both of those because this is this area I was talking about up here. So this is like this area here. Am I in the right area? Yes, this area here where I didn't put the wall in. Is like a not secret. It's kind of a secret entrance, right? What's the difference between that tile and this tile? There's none, is there? That's exactly the same, which means we're probably not going to bother using that one. This one, however, when I make sure it's lined up correctly like that, you can see that there's something covering the exit here. So the idea is that there's a tarp over it. Even if they're walking around the outside, it's well camouflaged. They can't see it unless they actually search for it. But it is another way into and out of the castle. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Now, slightly confusing is the map shows it kind of blocked. That tile shows it blocked. I was expecting there to be a tile that shows it free. Did I miss it? No, I didn't, which is slightly odd and not quite what I was expecting. I was expecting that to show it as being free of rubble. Fine. Let's put this one in here because, oh, actually, yeah, we're going to hide that. Okay, because I'm going to lock it. I'm going to hide it. Because again, until they actually find that, then they can't come through. I'm going to get rid of this one because it's just a replication of what's on the map, unless I've missed something stupid, and somebody will point that out in the in the comments, won't you? All right, so we can slap that one in there nice and easy. Right, what else was there in our little library? We had this. That one came from this one. We had, no, not those, not those. And this is the problem of me dumping everything into the same folder, is you start to lose track of which bits came from where. You know, it's about being organized, and I've done this in a bad way this time. It's why Curse of Strahd has so many folders, because it makes life easier. So this is a treasure that is potentially found in there, right? So again, you really don't need to do this, but if you want to, you can. So you hide that. If they find it, ta-da, they can see it. It's a really silly little, no, not silly, that's not fair. It's a really small little thing, but it can add quite a lot. What's this for? I think I know what this one is for. This will be for right here, because there's a, if I remember correctly, it's a deadfall trap. So when they enter this area, they potentially set off a trap where the roof caves in. So you can see that door matches up nicely. That's perfect. So again, it just shows that that particular path, if they set off the trap, roof collapses and it blocks off that doorway. So we can do that. Lovely. Where were the other ones? There we go. These ones over here. No, not that. Let's select. All right. These are just treasures. And what you'll notice is they go here. So you can see that there is this box here. It's got a chainmail shirt, it's got a crossbow, and it's got a sword. So what you could do is have that for when they've taken those items. You could decide not to have the sword on there. Maybe they only take the sword, or you could have them take the crossbow. So you can have multiple different tiles there to show the various items disappearing into overkill. I think so. I'm actually not going to use those. I'm going to leave that as is. The players know they've picked them up. You could, in fact, actually, what you might want to do is just use the empty one rather than switching between them all. I mean, you could use something like, again, we're not looking at modules. We will be very shortly, actually, because there's a few that we really want to get in. Dice So Nice being a very useful one. But you could, use something like Monk's Active Tile Triggers, and it will change the image as you click the buttons to say what they've picked up. Is that adding anything to the player experience, really? Is it just adding more setup time for the DM? Is it making your game slightly harder to run as the DM because you've got to remember to click different things? I don't know. You make that call. I can't be bothered. I don't feel that it's really adding anything. I think there might have been one more that we need for over here, actually. Or potentially. Let's have a look. Yeah, this one. Now, is it me, or is that another one where that's exactly the same? Let's get rid of it then, yeah? Now, some of these... There's 2 versions of the map. When you download it, actually there's 4 versions of the map. The map with lighting already on, and the map without lighting already on. There's the map with the grid, map without the grid. There's grid and lighting, grid without lighting. But there's also what's like empty, which doesn't have any of the furniture on. So when I said, oh, why have we got duplicates? Things like that, on the non-furnished version of the map, that image isn't there. So you would use that token to put that on, if that's the way you were doing it. I just went with show me the furnished ones, because it's just much easier, I think, for me. Okie dokie. Right, we didn't deal with the walls up here. So this area here, this effectively is a secret door, right? For all intents and purposes, it's a secret door. I'm just going to... Now, what we need to be careful of is, and I've mentioned this before, so just bear in mind that we have talked about this. If my secret door... If I make my wall like that, this gap here, players can't go through it. Tokens can't move through that gap because they can move up this gap, except they're blocked by a wall, or this gap, but that's blocked by a wall. So something to bear in mind when you're doing these odd shaped things. That wall blocking them, if it's halfway through the square, it will block them moving through that square. If I move it back one, it's now, you can see that's now less than half that square. A character or a token can move through that particular one and head north, right? So you might want to bear that in mind when you're doing some of these setups. Which means I'm going to move this one back a bit. So while it's slightly unrealistic, actually tokens can move up either of those ways. And then we're going to make a secret door to fill that gap. So when they open that secret door, basically they can go in and out through either of those two squares there. Okay. Right. I don't know what that noise was for. Okie dokie. Right, what do we want to do next? We've got to put all of our monsters and creatures and all of that thing in. But again, what I want to do is, and this will be very quick, is just bringing over the adventure module. We've got these numbers on the map. And I want to replicate those numbers so it's much easier for me to find in the module when I'm running and go, oh, you walked into area 2. What's area 2? Oh, that's the trapped hall. And I can go to it really, really quickly. Okay, rather than having to look at the map, oh, this is area 12, and then scroll to area 12 and then try to go back to the map when they change room and things like that. So again, done this before, and obviously, as we go on with this, there's going to be a lot of repetition with various things just because of the nature of what we're doing. So I'm going to stick that in there, and this is going to be number 1. Okay, I'm going to make this, let's make that 72, maybe make it fair, not 171. Let's make that 72. Yep, there we go. So we've got our number 1 there. Now, yeah, we can do all sorts of things with, you know, changing the border and stuff like that. We've got enough room here. I'm going to make sure it's quite nice and bold like that. Why is my number 1 a bit dim? There we go. Much brighter. And I'm going to hide it because I don't want the players seeing it. Now, again, we have done this before. Difference between information and object. I want it to be information only, which means the players can't see. It says here, you know, one that conveys information is rendered into the interface group and is visible to all players unless it's hidden. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then what I'm going to do is, because I'm lazy and it's easier to do it, 1, 2, 3. That's also a 3. That's 4. Before I lose count. That was 2. That was 3. And again, this is one of those things you really don't have to do. I find it just reduces a little bit of extra stress when running the game, because I know where things are and I can just look at the number straight to the module. I know what's going on. I don't have to sweat about it. Because for those of you who are DMs and have been DMing a while, you know it actually can be quite stressful at times, depending... Where'd it go? Depending on your player party and the adventure and everything else, it genuinely can be quite stressful because you've got a lot to focus on. You're trying to keep them engaged. You're trying to describe what's happening. You're trying to remember some stupid rule about how a particular item works that, you know, you haven't used for the last 7 years or something. So it can be quite stressful. So anything you can do to make your life easier is a good thing. I think that's a lesson for life, really, though, isn't it? Just anything that makes your life easier, do it. Unless it's crimes, of course. Yeah, let's not do that. Right, nearly done. And then we can talk about something else and stop listening to me just rambling nonsense. There we go. Right, so they're all in, nice and easy, quick to do, doesn't take too much time, but it will save me a lot of stress later on. Okay, what about lights? Lighting. I want to look at lighting. Let's do that. And again, so for me, the way I do this is I just go around the map and I see if there's any obvious places for lighting. And the answer is mostly no on this map. That's not lit. But I suppose what you could do is go, well, put a light source in case the players come along and choose to light it. You could do that, or you could do it on the fly. Down here, there's nothing lit down here. We do have this cooking barbecue. It's a barbecue, isn't it? That's actually what it is. I'm going to make that 5 and 15 if I just move that to one side. Yep. That looks good. We're going to give it a colour. We're going to make it slightly orangey type of flame there. There we go. We can turn down that intensity a little bit if we want to. Give it an animation. Torch is always good for things like fires and stuff like that. And we can slap that in there. Now we can turn it off and on whenever we want, of course. I'm going to leave that on for the moment. Because that is what it is. Anything else? So there's another one over here. Now again, this will, because it's snapping, if you want to do fine refinements with it, if you hold down shift when you're moving it, you can be much more precise and you can get things like your fire on top of the fire. We have another one over here. That one's bang in the middle there, nice and easy. So that's the only kind of lighting we need to do from a scene setup point of view, is those, and they might not be lit. As I've just done the light for it, why don't I slap one in there anyway? Then it's, if they do light it, it's ready to go. And of course, you can't see those normally. So you just flick to lights and switch them on and off as required. That one is already going to be lit. Okay. And what I would do for me personally, I would say that if it's during the daytime, that's how it's going to be. That one's going to be lit because they're cooking on it. If it's night time, I would light those two as well for a warmth point of view. Okay, because as we said when we were doing the red brand hideout, bugbears and goblins, they've all got dark vision. Why would they have torches and stuff lighting the way when they just don't need it? They're only making it easy for the party, aren't they? Okay, what about sounds? Have we done any sounds? Because let's... I can't remember if we did sounds. So I'm going to put a sound here. And I'm going to see if I actually uploaded any sounds. Was it in scenes, sounds? There we go, campfire crackling. I had. Yes. So I'm going to bring in my campfire crackling. Okay. And I need kind of a token next to it. Hopefully you can hear that. I have got the interface sound quite low for the stream. But hopefully you could hear that. I am going to make that slightly louder. There we go. And again, I'm going to copy that and I'm going to stick it on that one. I'm going to stick it on that one and I'm going to stick it on that one. Now this one that's slightly off-centered, again, just like with the lights, if I hold shift, I can place it a bit better. Now, when it comes to sounds, I know we talked about this. You want things like, you know, volume easing. In other words, does it get quieter the further you move away from it, and it gets louder the closer you get? For a lot of sounds, that is what you want. And is it constrained by walls? Now, remember we talked about the curtains, for example, blocking some of that sound. This curtain, we said none to sound. So you'd be able to hear, and you can see... Let's turn that on. The light gets blocked by the curtain. The sound does not get blocked by the curtain, which is how we would want that. Right, turn that off and turn that off. Okay, so where did I put those other sounds? You're not lit and you're not lit, so we turn those off. Nice and easy. That one is lit. Lovely. So you get quite adept. If you are new to Foundry, you do get quite adept with just kind of flicking to lights, right clicking to turn them all on and stuff like that. And of course you can create lights on the fly, absolutely. But it's it's much easier, much less stressful if you've already got that sorted and you can just right click it. And I've done the same with Curse of Strahd. It's just like go through and put lights everywhere there's potentially a light. I put a light. You're in a dungeon and there's wall sconces. I put a light in case they decide to light the old lamp or whatever. It just makes life easier, I think. Anyway. Okie dokie. I'll get rid of you, otherwise I will forget about you. Right. Monsters. Let's have a little look, see them. So, of course, we're going to start at number 1. We don't need to look at this map again because I've put them on there. Number 1, the entrance. No monsters dwell here. Developments, don't need to worry about that. The trapped hall. Do we need to do anything for this? So it tells you about the trap and about making the dice roll. But there is no treasure. There's no monsters. So again, we can just kind of skip straight over this. We don't need to worry about it. The archer posts. Remember there was 2 different number 3s. And it talks about the fact there's 2 goblins occupy each of these 2 rooms, taking turns to shoot arrows and duck back. So we need some monsters. Here we go. And they are just goblins. So we're going to go Goblin Warrior in this area 3 here. And we're going to be Goblin Warrior here. Now what we do need to make sure is these goblins have indeed got short bows and equip it. Because that's what they're doing. They're firing their short bows. Be quite embarrassing to go, oh yeah, we've put them behind the arrow slits and they can't actually do anything about it. So we're going to put these 2 in here as well. And of course I've just accidentally, no I haven't, I thought I closed the module. So that's easy, we can slap them out nice and quick. Ruined barracks. So number 4, there are 3 goblins here. So again, really easy to do this. This is this one down here. Though we're going to go goblin, not a goblin boss, and a goblin there. Boom, storeroom. So this storeroom, this is Sildar's gear, his chainmail and his long sword that belong to Sildar. So do we need to and again, this is your choice how you want to do it. Do we want to go, oh, we need to put those couple of items there? Or do we want to just go and grab those from the player's handbook? Because I haven't got Omnisearch on, finding things in the book is a bit of a pain in the bum, to be perfectly honest with you. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to grab those items. Now, I just want to check. We are part 3, the spider's web. So for our items, let's create a new folder. Part 3, spider's web. So just so we can keep the items in the right place. We'll get rid of that. Open this up. And we don't want to create a new item. We're going to go straight to the player's handbook. And we're going to go, we're going to go to equipment. That's better. Let's go back to my items there. What was it? It was chainmail and a longsword, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, chainmail and a longsword. So let's find, actually, it wasn't a chain shirt. It actually says chainmail. So let's dump chainmail over there. Just make sure it's in the folder. Easy peasy. And then we want that martial weapon, and we're looking for the longsword. L for longsword, Mr. Golem. You're an absolute plank. Brilliant. Now, remember that picture, because we're up here. We're in number 5. That picture's got a crossbow as well. Now, if you have the image of the crossbow on there, like it has at the moment, the chances are one of the players will go, oh, look, a heavy crossbow, I'll have that. So it's up to you what you do about that. I am going to put a heavy crossbow, because if a player says, well, I can see it, I'm going to put a heavy crossbow over here as well. Because to be perfectly honest, if my players are so desperate for equipment that they're going to steal that heavy crossbow to use, fine, let them do it. Doesn't bother me. It doesn't give them an advantage, really, does it? So, right. What's next? Hobgoblin Barracks. So we've got a new monster we've not used before. 4 hobgoblins in area 6. So that's this one here with these larger beds. So just checking we didn't do hobgoblins already, did we? Nope, no hobgoblins. Monster manual time. The joys of finding... Are they going to be under H for hobgoblin? Yay! That was particularly high pitched, sorry about that. So let's find our hobgoblins, and again we've got warriors, warlords, etc. for it. Now I want to drop them into my monsters. What I do want to do though is, oh, it's not there, it's down here, here we go, is I just want to check the CR of these because of the changes to the monsters in the 2024 edition, and the fact that they give you those, I mean, it's a really good improvement. The fact that you haven't just got, well, hobgoblin is this and every hobgoblin is the same, and you know you've got some variation so you can make your encounters tougher, and you're not just kind of going, oh, 3rd level we're dealing with hobgoblins, now we're 4th level, we'll never ever see one again. You know, it's the kind of thing. So I do like it, but it means that we do need to be a bit careful of checking our CR, that we haven't actually brought in something super powerful. Right, so I'm going to bring in a hobgoblin warrior. And this is where you find that the map is not necessarily particularly well scaled for things. We've got 4 beds there. These guys can't really, you know, I suppose they take up 5 foot, but each bed's only going to be about 3 foot. Yeah, fair enough. I'll let that ride. Like my opinion means anything. Treasure mounted at the wall are 5 spears, 4 long swords, 3 morning stars, 2 great swords, and a fine quarterstaff. Right, more items then. Again, just so they're on hand. It just makes life easier for us. So let's go back to the player's handbook. Let's go back to the equipment. All right, so we want 5 spears. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Simple melee. We want spear. And again, we don't need to have 5 spears, because if they're in here, we just drag it out. You know, whoever takes one up to 5, we give it to them. Longsword we've already got. We can martial morning star. Yep, we can have one of those. Great sword. That'll be under G. Great sword. and a quarterstaff. Have I gone mad? No, I'm looking under Marshall, you stupid boy. There we go. Brilliant. Nice and easy. Now it does say this quarterstaff is engraved with stylized feathers. It's surprisingly light and is worth 10 gold pieces. So we could just have this as a normal quarterstaff, or we can actually edit this. Let's call it a feathered quarterstaff. It doesn't have any magical properties. It doesn't do anything particularly special. But it's worth a bit more. So what was it? Worth 10 gold, which is an awful lot for a quarterstaff, and it's also lighter. And now, because we've changed the name of it, it's now feathered quarterstaff up here, so we're not going to get it mixed up with other kind of staffs and everything else that we might find along the way. Cool beans. We should get this scene finished today, which would be great. 4 Hobgoblins, treasure, we've done that. Banquet hall. Yeah, it's one of my favourite places, the banquet hall down here. Again, get rid of random tokens. Okay, so the banquet hall holds 7 miserable goblins and their fat leader, the cantankerous Yeg. Yeg the chef. Right, so we are going to go to our monsters. We're going to take our goblin warriors and we're going to be shoving them all over the place in here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now you can, again, just like we did with the lights and stuff, we can hold down the token and move, not both of them, and move them. They're outside of their squares, but you can move them so that they are, didn't mean to ping, doing 2 things at once. You can move them so they kind of fit with the furniture a bit better, if that's what you want to do. I mean, I tend to do that. But as soon as they actually move, it will snap them into the grid. Okay, so it's just when the players very first walk in. Oh, gosh, wish I wasn't an idiot. When the players very first walk in, they can see the goblins and they look like they're sat around the table when you're describing the fact that they are sat around the table. Okay, so that's our 7 miserable goblins, their fat leader. So we need Yeg. Now, does Yeg have special kind of things? Goblin Yeg. So they've made Yeg. They haven't made Yeg different. Okay. He's just a normal goblin. But I'm wondering if we possibly make him a goblin boss. Is that too powerful? Let's not mess with it. Let's put him out. Now we're going to do something slightly different with him. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this monster. Okay, so right click and duplicate gives me a second exact copy, and it says copy in brackets. Okay, because I don't want them both named the same. And I'm going to rename this one Yeg the Goblin Chef. Okay, and I might find a different image for him at some point. We talked about the fact that you know, players do like to adopt certain NPCs and monsters and things like that. Yeg is a favourite to get befriended, shall we say. Where is he? He's at the bottom. So we're going to put him out here. Now, because he is a main token, if you like, he's basically an NPC. We're going to have his disposition as hostile. But I am going to have him, he's always displayed for the owner, so that I remember which one is Yeg. And for his appearance, I don't think I need to change anything else. That's all fine. So it still says Goblin Warrior because we cloned it from the Goblin, right? I need to update this. Yeg the Goblin. In fact, I probably don't need to put Yeg the Goblin because it just looks like a goblin. All right, so nice and easy. And then it's easy for us to identify which one is Yeg as he does his thing, which is generally flail around, scream and shout at the player characters, mostly at his own goblins, getting them to fight. And it says, like, he is the chef. He viciously bullies his unwilling assistants as they go to work putting food on the tribe's table. If he is killed, the ones left alive flee to the east or west, but they avoid the north door because of the trap in area 2. So in other words, they don't go out this door because of this trap, the trap in this area. Fine, they're not actual idiots, they know about it. That was easy. The Dark Hall, what have we got here? So this Dark Hall is this piece here. Chamber contains a Grick, so we've not used the Grick yet, of course. Special pet, talks about surprise, talks about developments, it talks about treasure. The gold brazier, which we've seen, has got that gold statuette of a sun elf, and we talked about that when we looked at the tokens. The tiles. Oh, that reminds me, for those of you who are keeping up or not quite keeping up with current affairs, and it's really, really, really current, Monk's active tile triggers is very nearly completed. He's completely shifted gear into fixing that. It is in the works. It will be here soon. No ETA, of course. And as you know, I go on about Monk's active tile triggers because for me, it's a really important one that I need for the way that I run my game. So, yeah, that's on its way. It's on its way. Woohoo! Right, Monster Manual. Grick. Are you going to be under G for Grick? And again, we've had the Gricks. There we go. Now, interesting, it says plural for Gricks, because this is not one of the monsters I've actually looked at. So we've got the Grick Ancient, CR2, Grick Ancient, CR7. Oh, these got a buff. Now, remember, the module itself is 2014 rules. Our monsters that we're using are from the 2024 rules, so there might be some disparity between the two, so you may want to bear that in mind. Let's pop our Grick out and hide him, because the Grick is hidden, so we don't need him on display. All right, so the module talks about the treasure in there, so we need to create that item of treasure, of course. So we're just going to go in here. We're going to create loot. Okay. So we want that loot item there. Create that. And then we're going to name this. Now, in the module, what do they refer to it as? They just call it a gold statuette. So I'm going to call it a sun elf statuette. I think that will do very nicely. It's worth 100 gold. Okay, so we can put that in there, making sure that we're on gold, and we potentially can find an image from the core stuff. Don't want to spend, not in languages though, you won't, will you? I'm just wondering what it's going to be under. I don't want to spend ages looking at these because sometimes this is a pain. Is it going to be under equipment? Oh no, that's wearables. Under commodities, treasure. Anything that looks a bit like a gold statuette, we will go with it. Because again, the party doesn't really care. Let's go with that one. Oh, well, it says mask wood, mask jeweled. If we don't find something better, that's what we're going with. Looks nothing like a sun elf, but who cares? We're going with that. That will do very nicely. The players only really care how much it's worth. Okay, so I just want to make sure that's in the right folder. It is. Okay, so that's ready again, just to chuck into the backpack of whichever party member happens to find it and pick it up. So it talks about that, wrapped in a crimson cloth. A goblin hid the figurine here, hoping his fellow goblins wouldn't steal it from him. A detect magic spell reveals the statue is imbued with divination magic. Any non-evil creature grasping the statue can ask it a question and receive a telepathic response as if it had cast augury. It doesn't allow you to cast augury, so we don't need to do anything special with that item with this sun elf statuette. That's absolutely fine. Let's leave it as is. Area 9, which is this one. So this is the close to module again. So this is the Goblin Shrine. We talk about a goblin with 12 hit points and 2 ordinary goblins. All right, so let's create, back to our monsters, our ordinary goblin. And then again, we're going to right click, we're going to duplicate, we're going to open this one, and we're going to change this goblin and give it a name. Whoop. Lupo. Lupo the Goblin. And while we're doing that, I'm also going to do these 3 dots to toggle controls and go to prototype token, which brings up the main thing here. And I'm going to again change the name there. I'm also going to change it to say it always displays for owner, so I don't forget the important NPC's name when the players decide to do something. And it tells me that this goblin is super, super tough with its 12 hit points. Okay. And again, it'd be nice to get a different image for that. Where are you, Lupo? So we can bring Lupo out here. Didn't want to move the brick. What are you doing? Didn't realise I had that selected. All right, so we're going to drag that into the middle. Let's see what else it says that might be useful in here. 2 ordinary goblins serving as acolytes. So serving as, they're not acolytes. They don't have any particular powers or anything else. Talks about a bit of description of them. Chalice, knife and censer are human-made art objects. So we've got 3 more objects to make of bits of treasure that the party might pilfer. Which I'll conveniently... Ah, right. There was another tile for this, wasn't there? This is the altar with the items on. Let's go to our tile library. That's not what I wanted. User data, that was it. In my module, in Phandelver, in my packs, in scenes. Where was it? I saw it, and then that one. Bam. So when they nick all those items, again, I'm going to lock it, and I'm going to hide it. You can just hide the, reveal the tile, and the items disappear, which is, a nice little effect you really, really don't have to do, but it's kind of groovy to do that, I think. So we need to create those items again. So this, like I said, it starts to get a bit repetitive because we are, on this particular sort of scene, we've done most of the things previously. But this live stream's not about only doing new stuff. This, it's about having a good time, really, and just, building it anyway. Might as well share my pain with you guys. Right, so this was for the chalice. Let's see what we can find. Commodities, treasure. Let's find anything that looks like a chalice. It will do. There we go. Trophy cup. Lovely jubbly. We've got the chalice. We also want to do a censer. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're just going to... again, you don't need to bother doing this. You can just tell people they've got it. You can keep it a track on a bit of paper. Whatever works for you is fine. I like to give them stuff and chuck it in their backpack. They're only going to sell it at some point, and not going to do anything particularly wonderful with it. Just looking for something that looks like a sensor. Sorry for the scrolling. I know that's a bit of a pain in the arse. Oh, there's a better chalice. No. Stop messing around. That's a lantern. Not finding anything. That's a scepter. Doesn't look much like a scepter. Again, do they care? Are they even going to bother looking at the image? Probably not. Where was that scepter? That scepter looked more like something for chucking incense around than it did a scepter. I'm going with that. Because I can, alright? My game, my rules. Alright. And the next one was human sensor. Sorry, the knife. So I've just done the prices the wrong way round. This is the knife. Sorry. The chalice was worth 150 gold. The sensor should have been worth 120 gold. It's quite a lot of gold. and we want to create a new item, which is it's a knife, but it's an art object, so it's going to be loot rather than a weapon. Oh, blimey. I'm going to call it an artistic knife. We could... What if they want to use it? I'm going to say no. It's not actually a dagger. If they try to use it, they're going to break it and it's going to ruin it. It's going to become worthless. It becomes two halves of a piece of art. I'm going to do that because I'm mean and I like to keep my players on their toes. Okay, equipment. No, I want weapons, really. Do I? Let's see what we've got in way of daggers that look a bit kind of arty. I mean, obviously they all look like daggers. I'm going to do that one, just because. There we go. We got treasure done. Nice and easy. Made of obsidian. Yeah, William. That's not a bad idea, is it? Yeah. We could say something. I mean, I've chosen a purple one rather than the black one. But yeah, I mean, we could actually... Let's do it. Let's do it. See, you're here. Let's do stuff. Okay. So now I've got to find a new image of a knife that matches that. I'm sure there will be one. That one possibly. I mean, it's obviously very bright, but I would like to see if there is actually a black one. I mean, that's a bit darker. I think we're going to have to go with that. I think that's the best we're going to get. Brilliant. Nice one, William. And to be honest, if obsidian can be... You're right, actually, Igla, it can, can't it? Because the black obsidian is actually... It's the same... Yeah, it's very, very, very dark green to the point where it looks black and is really difficult to tell the difference. You're right. It absolutely is. You know, good old volcanic glass. Okay, so we're going with that. Brilliant. Thank you, William. There we go. You can say that you've had input. In fact, actually, both of you, Igla and William, you've both input into this particular map. It's appreciated. Now, obsidian, as you might know, it's volcanic glass. So it's really, really sharp, and it can be used, and it certainly has been in prehistoric times, used for cutting, skinning, and stuff like that. But it's really brittle. So using it as a weapon, it would snap. So anybody who's kind of got a basic idea would kind of go, it's simply a knife. Should I be using that as a weapon? And of course, when you describe it and you say, you know, give it an idea of how much it might be worth, hopefully they'll very quickly realise that they probably shouldn't try and use it as a weapon. Okay, we got those in. Lovely jubbly. Postern Gate. So area 10. Arrow slits. Just double check where area 10 is. So again, you know, this is what I mean. Even just doing this. Sorry, down here. Even just doing this, I don't need to faff around looking at the map in the module just to build it, because I've already put my numbers in. So side entrance is locked but unguarded. Let's check to make sure we locked it, shall we? So if I go to my walls tool, we can click on this and we can look to say the door state is closed, but it's not locked. There is another way to do that, which is often easier, is just to go to the token controls. You can see these doors. That's not locked. If I right click it, that's now locked for the players. Okay, so often that's much quicker to do, to be able to do it that way and just whiz around. All right, so it talks about it being iron door. It's locked. It can be opened with thieves' tools, etc. It talks about the arrow slits. Anyone who pauses and listens near the arrow slits can hear. Now, we have a slight problem with the way that we've done our map. And this is the whole Foundry doesn't do heights thing. If I come, this bit in here where these goblins are is at the same level as the top of these steps. You go down these steps to being under the arrow slits, which would suggest that if you are standing down here, you can't look through the arrow slits. Now, it depends how tall you want those steps to be, really, doesn't it? So you might decide that actually you can't just look through these arrow slits and see in there. You might say, well, you might want the players have to be boosted up in order to look through there. You may want to do that. Doesn't mean they can't hear the goblins through there, but actually to look through, they would need to get a bit higher. Is in Base Foundry a region control? For the heights thing you talk about, Igla? Is that what you're referring to? Because it yeah, add a minus 10-foot region. Last time I played with that, because when and to be honest, I haven't played with it particularly much in version 13. But in version 12 with the regions and stuff, I did play with it and I found it was really janky. Have you used it? And are you saying it works, or you've got it to work? Because if so, that will solve quite a lot of the problems. But I'm not going to mess around with it now. Well, I might do if you kind of go, yeah, just go for it. Let's do it, shall we? We haven't got very long left. Let's play with it. Right. So this live stream suddenly turned into learning with Igla. This is why I live stream, really. Let's I'm just going to create a region just to try this out for, right? So let's create that region. Okay. So the elevation, so the top, so we're going to say the bottom is minus 10. It worked. I used a module for it. Also in V12. Yeah, no, obviously we're in V13, so it should be even better. Oh, but you used a module for it. Ah, right. Do you know what? Can you remember what the module was? To get it to do it? And actually, we want the top of this to be minus 10, don't we? Oops. Oh, no. Sorry. No, we don't. Minus 10 to 0. And again, this is something I'm going to have a proper play with rather than just this random experimenting with it right now. You only used it once. Fine, yeah, mate. No, but I mean, it'd be really useful if you let me know, because that might be something we can have a play with and just kind of see how that works. Now, by default, that's not going to work because I haven't set other things. I'm wondering if it works in conjunction with wall height by Ripper, so that you can define the other wall heights to go alongside defining the region. Anybody else who's watching this who's got that working and playing with that and stuff like that would be really, really good to drop a comment probably on the video now, unless you happen to be watching live. Yeah, if you are managing to do that, let me know what you're doing, and we'll have a play. Because that would be really, really useful. That's the thing I'm most interested in with version 14, I think, is the fact that they're going to improve that level stuff. Because it will make a heck of a difference. Got distracted again. Oh, yeah. I was talking about these. So, yeah, what you choose to do about these is up to you. Maybe if we do end up with a solution, we will come back and we'll do that as part of this. If it's using a mod, then we'll do that as a completely separate video and things like that. If we can do it without using a mod, we'll do it in here that way so that we can show off how that works. I'm really hoping you're right, Igla. Well, sorry, I'm not suggesting you're lying. But yeah, I haven't managed to get that to work in any kind of satisfactory way. And to be honest, even using wall height and levels, well, with levels, it's really, really good. With wall height, that is where you would be able to say, oh, those windows are certain high up and things like that. That would kind of work for it. It's up to you how you want to handle that. Personally, I'm going to say that there's not that many steps. It's not that high. Any human 5 to 6 foot kind of medium character is going to be able to look through those windows if they want to do that. Right. Talks about the arrow slits and things like that. Ruined Tower, part 11, which is this bit over here that I was talking about this canvas part on. So it talks about the fact that this dusty canvas, mark C on the map, it's not on ours, we've got tile for it. Blending with the surroundings, they need a perception check to spot that a footpath leading to the hidden entrance, and if they actively search outside of the castle they can find it as well. But apart from that, there's nothing in here. Guard barracks number 12, we've got 2 hobgoblins in there. That's nice and easy, not even any treasure, so let's slap those out in area 12. We've already got our hobgoblins. Here's area 12 for us. Back to our monsters. Hobgoblin warrior, there's 1, there's 2. That's simple. We're not messing around with you know, trying to do fancy stuff with modules and everything else. It's so quick to build this stuff. The Owlbear Tower. All right, so yeah, this is the round tower at the bottom with the shuttered windows. And they've got a sodding owlbear in there. Now, there is treasure. We're going to come back to that. Let's find our owlbear first. So it's this one here. It's basically got an owlbear living here. I don't ask how they managed to do that. Ah, dear. Owlbear. We love owlbears. I think everybody loves an owlbear, don't they? Owlbears. Now, again, it's owlbears plural because it's another one of those. There's not just owlbear. There's different owlbears. There's primeval owlbear as well. What's that? CR7. Jeebus. Right, we just want a normal one. We don't deliberately want to kill the party. But to be honest, if they come in here and start messing with the owlbear, they get everything they deserve. I assume the door to this is locked, right? Door to this room is held shut by a heavy wooden bar, a suitable warning that danger lies beyond. So I'm going to lock it, because they need to move the wooden bar beforehand. William, new DM to Foundry here. Yeah, so still building on part 1. See you on the replays. No, time machine. Yeah. Brilliant, William. You know, you're exactly the kind of person that we're doing this for, is just to help you give that, you know, that little step up, the little tricks and tips and stuff like that, because it's Foundry is brilliant, but it's intimidating when you very first start. At least I found it intimidating, because it's like, what do I do? And if you go look at my really, really early videos, you see me making all sorts of... I mean, I still make stupid mistakes, but I make all sorts of really stupid mistakes, and lots of them. Learn from my idiocy. Although in fairness, some of those videos are like version 10, version 11. They're a little bit out of date now, so this is kind of like fresh look with these fresh tools and things. Right, let's do some treasure. I am running out of time. In fact, actually, we are kind of out of time, but I'm going to finish off this treasure before we finish it. And if we hadn't have if I hadn't got so distracted... Oh, dear Lord, I've just messed up all my screens. If I hadn't got so distracted, we would have finished this by now. Right, so it talks about the fact that there's a chest in here. Oh, did we have a tile for a chest? I think there was one. Come back to here, come back to my modules, my Phandelver, into my packs, into my scenes. There was that chest. That was for something else. Oh, that was for the bugbear. For the other goblin cave, wasn't it? We want this one? We can stick that chest in there. Don't think that was for anything else. Yeah, so we've got 2. We've got chest closed. So I'm going to lock that tile in place. No, I'm not going to hide it. I'll pop this one directly over the top. Oh, wasn't expecting it to do that. Ow. I've locked it so it won't do it. Right, so another learning point. With that not locked, when you've got multiple tiles on top of each other, these 2 arrows allow you to move things forwards and backwards. So you're changing the layer of those. Okay, but you can't do it when they're locked. So what we can do is we can have this one as the hidden one. Okay, what that means is the players will see... Don't want to hide that one. The players will see this one, which I'm going to lock, unless this one is shown, in which case they'll be able to see in it. Ta-da! Oh, I open it. Okay, you can see the treasure. Close it. You can't see the treasure. Open it. You can see the treasure. But again, I am going to lock it. So just so you know, bring to front, send to back. Obviously, that's a really common tool in lots of different things. You know, I'm bringing it in PowerPoint, and you know, it's all over the place. But yeah, if you've got layered tokens, that's what you need to do. But it won't work if your tokens are locked. Okay, right. Crack on, and then we will have to call this one to a close. What was the treasure? It talks about gold. It talks about electrum. Here's a quick survey for you. Who actually uses electrum pieces in their games? I know loads of DMs who just kind of like, nah, not having it. I'm going to clone this potion of healing because I want to make sure it's in part 3. And I'm going to rename it to get rid of the copy word. Boop. Okay. Why bother going through the book to find it when it's right there? Scroll of Silence and a scroll of Revivify. Now, do you remember how we did these? How did we do these? I know how we did these, but I was wondering if you remembered. We're going to go to Player's Handbook. We're going to go to Spells. I'm going to hide. What was it? It was Silence and Revivify. So if we find Silence, and this is where you laugh at me again because I can never remember what bloody level things are. So I'm going to go to my items and I'm going to drag the spell over as an item. Once it's here, I can right click on it and I can create scroll. It's going to ask me if there's anything I want to change about the details. No. Now we have a scroll of silence from the spell. Now we've got that as a scroll. I don't need to keep this anymore. I can delete that. I don't need the spell imp sitting there in my inventory. That's not helpful. What was the other one? Revivify. Oh, blimey. Is that 3rd level? Yes, it is. Okay, so same again. Drag this. I can't do it from here. If I right click this, I can import it, but I can't. Oh, it can. I'm sure it didn't let me do that before. Oh, well, it kind of. Hang on a second. It allows me to click create scroll, but it doesn't go anywhere because it doesn't know where to put it. So it's a bit weird that you can do that. Anyway, drag the item out, create scroll. There we go. Just drop it in to make sure it's in there, and I can delete the spell again. So I've got my 2 scrolls ready to go for that. And that's it for treasure. And then the only area left is the King's Quarters. So we'll do Growl the Bugbear, Snarl the Wolf, and the Doppelganger disguised as a female drow. So we won't need to get an image for that. We will do that next week, and that will complete this particular scene. It's job done. Lovely jubbly. Lovely jubbly, blimey. So that's it. We're going to call this to a close right here. We have overrun slightly, but thank you for hanging around. I will catch you all next week. Hopefully next weekend there will be another video drop. We'll be looking at some of the updated mods and things like that. Igla, before we finish, right, you found it. Slightly mistaken, just created an active tile trigger tied. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, good old Monk's active tile trigger. I mean, if we're really, really lucky, we'll be looking at Monk's in the next video next weekend, but I suspect it might take slightly longer than that. But thank you for checking, Igla. I really appreciate that. I was wondering how you managed to do such wizardry, and I was all prepared to learn. But yeah, we might have to wait for version 14 for that. Okay. Thank you for watching. Very much appreciate it. If you're on the video, of course, please leave comments and things like that. That'll be really, really appreciated. For the guys who are hanging out here, for William and Igla, for your engagement and chatting along with me. Really, really appreciate your advice, recommendations, your input and everything else. It's pretty cool. I really like doing it like this. I'm building it anyway. It's just much more fun to do it with you guys. Thank you very much. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care.